go into it. And, so sometimes I mention things and I just let you kind of search for it or make of it what you make of it, and then I come back to it, and then I give more detail, and then I come back to it and I give more detail. That's successive approximations. You introduce a subject in a simple kind of way, and you don't bring in everything but the kitchen sink, and you let people absorb it, and then, right, that's a very big principle of the method. Well, I mention it just because, again, when you go out and teach, your students don't need to know everything you've learned in the training in 1 hour. Because you're just teaching them to feel themselves and to feel a difference, right? So they don't need to know. This wouldn't be a lesson for the public, for instance. I wouldn't recommend it. What do you think, Madhavi? Thumbs down, huh? No. They won't come back, no. All right. So, yeah, it depends, doesn't it? It always depends. But I mentioned we talked a lot about the sternum last week, and I think everybody came into that wherever. Like for some people, just the fact that it could move up and down was kind of a revelation, and then there was the turning, and then there's something you wanted to show us? Private study? Let's see what you do with yourself.
I was just testing out my sternum. See.
Okay, so.
Right side of it.
Well, come here. Right, much more. Well, so there's yet another distinction, now that you've got all these different directions, which is that there is not a pin. We don't have a pin connecting. Have you talked about this already in here? Okay. Do you feel like you have a pin connecting? All right. So a lot of people move with the sternum as if there's a pin connecting the spine to the sternum. And Moshe, in some lessons, talks about that the sternum can slide relative. You don't have it yet. Relative. Your spine would come toward me, and your sternum would go that way. That way, yeah. And then this would go. I have to bend down for him to feel. There you go. There you go. There you go. Did you know about that one?
No.
No, I didn't think so. See, the thing about going fast, thing about moving fast is you tend to find what you already know. Funny about that. Okay. What? What?
It makes me feel confident.
Well, of course. Yeah, of course. That's why we do it. We speed up so we never have to see the real truth about ourselves. But we're doing deeper self-knowledge than the stuff you had when you walked in the room, isn't it? So, okay, so can everybody do it with yourself? So the spine would go to the right and the sternum would go to the left. They don't stay lined up. And actually, I would propose, but you can have your own opinion, Joel, but I would propose that this kind of possibility to soften the chest like that is it's fantastic. I personally like it a lot, but you'll have to see. Because a lot of effort that we've been involved with can kind of melt away. Is it eluding you, or are you getting a glimpse of it a little bit? So you see, if you take something, for instance, like say seated twist, which you'll teach to your groups, and again, this, you don't have to get into this with your groups right at the moment. First, let them have a sternum. Okay, I think just take your time. Simple things with your groups, like pelvis, head, something in between. Woo! That's already big. Right, Margaret? Okay. All right. Margaret yeah. She should talk to you about her groups. She has this fabulous experience running groups for many, many years. But She can tell you a little bit about that at some point. So next week, did you say next week or Julie said next week? Next week, when I shut up. All right, thanks, Margaret. That's the kindest thing you said yet. Instead of like, who am I to ask for a glass of water? We all have more than one side to us, you know? It's interesting. We have a range of behaviors. All right. So, but I mean, if you do a seated twist, you see people, you say, and you turn the sternum, and they do, you know, you go out this weekend and look, take a look at people's movement. You'll see people move as if they have a pin between a lot of stuff. No, I mean, they're just all pinned together, you know? Oh my God, they have these pins everywhere. They can do something like that. Everything's pinned together. All right, good. So at some point in this lesson, not maybe right away, but if I say the word sternum, maybe it'll sound like a new and fresh and shiny kind of word for you. Please lie down. We'll see where we go. Even just that little bit of mashing and smashing your chest, as we call it, feel if that influenced your breathing. What you feel in your chest. And then roll onto your stomach. Turn your face to the right. Put your left arm down along your side. And make a small movement of shifting your weight over to the left and back. Just lift the right side of your pelvis. Start it from your pelvis. So lift your pelvis and shift your weight to the left. Slowly, gently. Do the smallest movement you can to feel that you're doing what's being asked. Shift the weight, and you feel the front parts of yourself pressing into the floor in a different way as you shift your weight to the left and back. And then begin to follow that movement up through the different vertebrae of your spine. Just how far up through your spine do you feel that? And where does it stop? And then put your right hand in a push-up position. So your right, not your left hand, your right hand. Left arm is down along your side. Right hand so your right elbow is in the air. And keep on doing that simple movement of shifting the weight over to the left, lifting the right side of the pelvis, and back. Feel how having the arm in a bridge position like that changes how you feel the movement passing. And then let the movement grow so that you would feel that your right heel is turning inward as you do it, and the right knee, when you turn the right heel inward like that, would bend a little bit to the outside. But really let the movement of the leg be carried by the big muscles around your pelvis, around your lower ribs, around your abdomen. So let the heavy part move the lighter part, as we say. The heavy limbs, not that you're the power station, the big part. So that the movement of the leg is practically weightless. You don't need to make a big activation of the muscles of the leg. And keep on making that simple movement. Feel if the shoulder's moving at all and how would it move. As little by little the leg is drawn up a bit more, and then when the pelvis comes back, the leg is weightless and can return back home in a very light way. Once the pelvis comes back home, the leg straightens easily. And then stop that movement a minute and stay in the bridge, but make just a very light sliding with the help of your right hand. Make a very light sliding of your right shoulder blade toward your spine and back. Think of the connection of the movement of where the shoulder blade and the clavicle connect, in front, where the clavicle connects to your chest bone. And find out where you can try out a few different places to put your hand. Some of you have your hand in a place where the push from the hand doesn't move the shoulder much. So maybe there's a better place to put the hand. Try out a few places. See, feel. Make it light enough that you could differentiate the movement of the scapula sliding toward your spine from what's underneath, means the ribs. And feel if that affects the way you lie on the floor in front. That's better. That's better. Good. Now put that together with the shifting of the weight, the bending of the knee, and feel as you allow the weight to shift a bit more and the knee to bend a bit more, if at any point the left ear becomes lighter on the floor, or the head becomes lighter on the floor, and just begin to think. Initiate, no big movements, but just the very, very beginning of the thought of the initiation of the head going toward that gap. And the whole study from last week was, one of the primary studies was to find out if we could arrive at a place where we felt that the head could be more or less passively moved through the gap, means practically weightless, instead of making big efforts in the neck. So feel if it's a lighter head today than the one you were concerned with last week. And of course, for that head to be light, something needs to happen in your sternum. What sort of movement is it in the sternum that allows the chest to fold in a way and turn in a way so that the head can be light? And keep on doing that movement little by little. The elbow's in the air. The hand pushes a little bit. And as the head starts to be drawn through the gap like that, with the chest moving and the spine, all the parts of you moving, just become aware of what, for you, when you take your head through the gap, it's your face through the gap as well. And which part of your face do you think of? You think of it your mouth? Do you think of it as your chin? Or the forehead? And if you thought of, for instance, the tip of your nose going toward the tip of your knee, what sort of pathway of movement would that be? The sternum has to go downward. It's not just turning. The bottom of your sternum is going toward your thigh. You're pushing with your hand. You're being creative in a way that's, the creativity is completely coming out of the form of the lesson. So don't lift the hand. You push with the hand. You don't roll onto your back. The knee, okay, so that's the teacher's fault. I have to give another instruction. So as you take your head through the gap, you take your head toward your knee and your knee toward your head. You don't lift it and take it and you differentiate the movement of one leg from the other. They don't both bend like one leg, right leg coming toward the nose. And the hand is pushing, and the chest is folding. It means the sternum going down in the direction of the leg. All right, rest a little bit on your stomach or your back or however you want. Some people now are they fall asleep because the breathing is getting so free and the spine is getting so free and everything and just feeling so light, and then boom, they fall asleep. So it's okay. It's interesting in a way to do awareness through movement when you're already in such a sensitive, as I said earlier, diffuse state. It means the center of the attention is not in this little point in your, I don't know where you usually hold it, but it's more spread. Now change over the sides. So you turn your head the other way, shift your weight to the, so now you lift the left side of your pelvis and you shift your weight to the right. Yeah, you can start with the arm in a push-up position right away if you like. But let the movement build up slowly. Don't bend the knee right away. Start with the movement of your pelvis. And following that, the movement of the pelvis is like a lever that turns the different places in your spine up to a point. That point is different for each person. So follow that through. And then the heel will tend to come inward and the knee will tend to go outward of its own. So it just happens. Have the left elbow in the air. Let the left shoulder blade slide a little bit as you press with the left hand. And then just take your time and feel at what point does the head know about the movement? Does the head feel what? The obviousness of moving toward that gap, or the tendency of moving toward that gap, or the tendency of being not stuck to the floor, so that something in the middle of you can draw the head toward the pelvis, which means a lot your sternum, and the folding and turning and the twisting as the knee is drawn up higher and higher, and the weight is shifting more completely onto the right side with the help of the left hand pushing the left shoulder. And allow your head to be drawn through that gap. Think of the middle of your back getting a bit round, going backward, folding. Now, do it a couple of times and think of kissing your right knee. You don't have to literally kiss the right knee, but think that you're going to bring your mouth to touch the tip of your right knee. Do it like that. And then you do a completely different pathway of the movement of the head through the gap, but you'll never do it if you don't allow your sternum to move, lower part going down, middle of the back backward. And the sternum is also can slide. Maybe you can play a little bit with that sliding movement. What would that be like in a situation like this? And just feel when you bring the middle of yourself into it more, if that relieves the neck even further of some of its work, means it gets even lighter. All right, go on your back and rest a little bit. I know we're stretching it a bit with all this ATM this morning. It's a big demand. So you do, it is however it is. But sometimes it can be interesting to take the attention to make a little bit more demand. It's not efforting, it's not forcing, but it's just sustaining something with our attention for a little bit longer. There was a lesson that Moshe taught in Israel in one of the classes, and it's almost completely done in the imagination. And obviously, that's a big demand. And apparently somebody looked at their watch at a certain point in the lesson, like how much longer, As teachers, we just love that gesture on the part of people. One of our favorite gestures. Anyway, I guess the guy got up and looked at his watch like, oh, how much longer do we have to do this stuff in our imagination? And Moshe just said, and those of you who look at your watch, you need it more than anyone else. You never felt what it was like to focus on a mathematical problem for more than, anyway, it just gave this rant about really, having the attention be sustained in a very, very deep way. So it's not easy, but it's sometimes interesting to have a go at it. So listen to your breathing. How you feel your spine on the floor. What for you means the word spine. Go on to your stomach again. Turn your head to either side. Put both arms in a bridge. And in your imagination only, and not looking at your watch, could you imagine taking the head through the gap, once to the right and once to the left? And what you would do with the hands pushing on the floor, with the shifting of your weight, with your shoulder blades, with your pelvis, the orientation of the head through the gap. You can start it a little bit if you want, but mostly in your thinking. And since you're doing it in imagination, only imagine that when the head goes through the gap and the knee bends, that they touch, that they bang into each other, and that it's a fast movement. Imagine doing it very, very fast. without holding your breath. The head and the knee, the head and the knee, the head and the knee. And shifting the weight to change over. How fast can you think it? What's the fastest you can go in your imagination? The elbows in the air. We worked on it last week, so you do the best you can, or do the worst you can, I don't know. All right, so, and then any speed you want, any size you want, a few times, do the movement. Fast or slow, big or small. Feel how that movement of the sternum, turning, sliding, moving in a very three-dimensional way, helps bring the upper and the lower together. Faster. Without hurrying, faster. Use your shoulders. Good. All right, nice. Go on your back. Rest a minute. Now, put your right hand in a bridge position, bend your right knee. Feel how you're feeling that today. And again, if you weren't here this last week, well, I don't know. It'll mean whatever it means, but just have a go. And the smallest movement you can, press the right foot into just the smallest movement, press your right foot into the floor and feel with the very, very beginning, you can press the right foot into the floor a little bit. What other parts of yourself know about it? What other parts of yourself, where in yourself do you sense the ripple, the transmission of the force just from the very beginning of pushing the right foot into the floor? And let the movement grow. Keep your right knee vertical though. Then you begin to think that the right elbow and the right knee go apart, like we did. Turn your face to the left. Just feel if something is more available. Without the squeezing of the lips, the tightening of the jaw. Now, in this movement, you can try to find, see if you can find, he said try a lot this morning in that lesson, I noticed, but find, I won't say try to find, I'll say find that movement of the sternum sliding, almost like a translation movement, sliding to the left, sliding, turning, and lifting. Very fancy movement. It's kind of a mirror image of what you did on the stomach. Look for it high up where your clavicles come together. Look for it low down at the bottom of your sternum. That's it. And that it goes more to the left and the spine goes a bit to the right. There's no pin there. And when you allow that kind of movement, what happens in your shoulder? What happens in the ability of your elbow to go away from your knee? And now when I look around, I see many, many people have the head move through the gap without doing it. Or as Moshe sometimes said, whether you want it or not, that head moves backward, isn't it? When all that's organized from, the heads are much, much lighter now. I mean, of course, you have to do a tiny bit of something, but keep your knee vertical. Otherwise, you're just rotating. That's it. Find the point where the head gets light. And then you can go faster and easier. You can go as small as you want, as big as you want, as slow as you want, as fast as you want. Just feel if it's not even a little bit better now. And be interested in this movement of the sternum. You have to stay there though. Yeah, there's some part of yourself that doesn't want to do it. So in the middle, it's right there. That's it. The bottom of the sternum. Rest a little bit. Although once you do a few of those, you won't feel tired, I promise. Rest a little bit. These movements are very, I'm going to make up a new word. These are very potentizing movements. Potentizing. Feel your breathing, feel the space between your sternum and your spine. Change over, put your left hand in a bridge. And start really small. What's the tiniest movement of pressing of the left foot into the floor you can do and feel all of yourself knowing about it? Every part knows about it. Movement through the spine, the suppleness now coming into your chest. Space inside your mouth. Your abdomen. Does it pass or it doesn't pass? And then the elbow and the knee going away from each other. The knee stays vertical. So the hand pushes and the elbow goes away from the knee, and it's more like slowly. That's right. And where does the movement from lower down and upper connect? Through the middle, somewhere in the bottom of the sternum. And find that kind of very three-dimensional movement of your chest, sliding, lifting, turning. And the whole right side getting long as the weight comes onto it, and the left side curving a bit. Means the ribs on the left being drawn together and the ribs on the right opening to take the weight. And that lifting, I think some of you just have that little bit of, it's almost complete, but you hold, you tighten your belly at the bottom of the sternum, and just that little tightening there cuts the total transmission of force to go from the foot to the head. So push the belly out as your head goes back through the gap. Then you'll see have a whole skeleton. That's it. There you go. The last stronghold of where you put your pin, where you sew yourself together. And let it be as quick as you like. Keep the knee vertical. Well, some of you have got some new bones that you didn't have when you came last week. All right, it's nice. It's included in the course. Rest a minute. There's a lot more scapulas in this room than when I met you last week. You had this sort of undifferentiated something or other up there. More skeleton, just feel. I think it's enough for one morning. Just take one more minute and explore. If you need another minute to feel something, just take it for yourself. If you feel it's enough for one morning, you can lie quietly and be alone in your inner world before you go connect with your outer world. You can do it on both sides if you want. It's harder, of course, to have both hands in a bridge, but if you want, you can explore that a little bit. In other words, if you're finished, you're finished. If you're not finished, you're not finished. And listen to keep on being with yourself, but listen to there is a kind of quality of silence that appears when we use our attention in such a kind of crystalline way. It's almost like you can hear sounds funny in a way to say the sound of silence, but like we did last week in the prayer, but you can feel it, you can hear, as if the awareness from each person is put into the atmosphere of the room, and we share it, and we help each other that way, and special kind of silence, which comes through the attention. Now just stop for a moment and listen to the air coming in and out through your nostrils. And bend your knees. Come up to sitting. So I think we'll give you 5 extra minutes for lunch today. So hour and 20 minutes, doesn't that sound spacious? So this is the ATM for today. This afternoon, we're going to do some other things. So really, at lunch, be with yourself from what we did today. We did some stuff, and feel yourself, and let it come in, the impression of how you are from this work today. So, because then once we get back today and we touch and we talk and it's harder to follow it, right? So this is really the moment that you can follow the influence from what we did. So have a stand up, walk around, feel what you feel, and come back in at 10 to 2 and we'll carry on. Feel if there's a bit more skeleton there for you. Something supporting you.